Let's do something fun today. Let's actually develop something in the app. I'll show you the workflow, the tech stack I've been using, as well as the development environment setup, along with Claude Code, which has been indispensable in terms of actually making the app come to fruition so far. What you're looking at is right to the right, I have my GitHub repository for this particular project. Disregard the failure indication here. That is because I have run out of my minutes. I think it's here, right? Wait, billing settings. Uh, yes, I have run out of my free minutes for this month, and as a result, it just wouldn't actually perform any of the checks after I push my commits to GitHub. But as you can see, all the scripts are working fine. The deployments are fine last week before the minutes ran out. And maybe at some point when I get rich, I'll buy the minutes. But for now, I'm okay with just not having to worry about this. In any case, on the left-hand side, you see my JetBrains gateway. I'm using a remote development environment. So in other words, my computer is just a thin client and it's connecting to a home server that hosts my entire development environment. I found this to be uh, a, a much better experience, especially on Windows. And I do pay a little bit in terms of speed, as well as some of the minor quirks and the things that I have to contend with. But overall, I like the setup. So this is my project. The project's name is Shokken. As a reminder, it's a Kotlin multi-platform project that uses Compose multi-platform as the UI library. Trying to follow Material 3 specifically in terms of the UI design specs. And it's targeting Android, iOS, desktop, and web. That's very ambitious. My primary goal at the beginning is to get Android and iOS working first because the multi-platform support are most robust for those two platforms. Desktop will come next, and web is the piece that's really interesting. So my Wasm actually at this point doesn't really compile. I've used dependencies that are not compatible with Wasm at the moment, but I'm leaving that stub in, so at some point I'll get to it to fix it. The app is a single module uh, app that follows clean architecture. Earlier in my previous round of development, I made a lot of mistake with regards to not actually sticking to an architectural design pattern. I paid the price in that. I've learned my lessons. So I'm sticking to that very religiously. As you can see, I have my data layer, my domain layer, and presentation layer. Let's make it bigger because that's always better. Um, it's using Koin dependency injection. That seems to be the most popular one. I'm also using mm, I cannot remember what I wanted to say. Oh, I'm using an MBI pattern for state management, and I'm using a library for that. It's Orbit. So as you can see in my view model, you'll actually see a screen model as opposed to view model. And the screen model, and as you can imagine, comes from uh, oh hello, comes from the Orbit MBI. Before this, my experience had been in MVVI, but MVI seems to be the new cool kid on the block, and it seems to have very good integration with KMP and Compose multi-platform, and that's what I decided to use. Okay, in terms of enforcement, that's another mistake that I made in my earlier attempt. In the previous implementation or previous attempt, I didn't have any tests. I was going I was raw dogging my code base. I was putting in all the features that I wanted to, and at some point, it just there was so much technical debt that going through them would cost me more time than actually starting from fresh, and that actually has been proven to be true. I'm making pretty good progress now. I'd say faster progress now than before, and the progress I've been making now is far more um, reliable. I don't know if that's the right word to describe it. I feel more confident with the progress that I've made. I know that any new feature, any new screen that I put onto the app would likely not cause regression, or even if it did, wouldn't be nearly as much. So the test infrastructure is the most important test is actually consist test tests, and consist tests validate a whole bunch of architectural stuff with regards to my app. And I want to make sure that I'm sticking to the clean architecture, I'm following all the naming conventions, I'm doing everything right. And the code base needs to be reliably maintainable over the course, the lifetime of the app. And that's the goal. And of course, on top of that, I have KT-lint as well as detect. But these are, I suppose, lesser and minor tests. But the consist tests that I have here, the entire test suite, ensure that the app would be maintainable and would adhere to a strict high quality standard. And I'm also enforcing test coverage. So in the common tests, um, okay, so there's a confession that I have to make. Earlier, I said that I would do test based development. I think that's what it TBD. Yeah, test based development. In other words, you write the tests first, and then the tests would fail because you didn't implement anything yet. And then you would implement as the second step. And then the tests would pass, and then you would refactor such that the original implementation would become the best implementation that would stick. I started doing that, and I'm not sticking to that 100%. Maybe I'll pay for it down the line. But one thing that I'm holding myself to is ensuring that my test coverage would have to fulfill the requirement before I'm able to commit and push. So earlier you saw the these repository actions, commit and PR tests. This enforces, now again, like you're seeing all failures here because I ran out of credits, but these enforce uh, the test coverage. All the local hook tests are being run in the CI/CD pipeline to make sure that I can't push out a build that has any of those tests fail. And you're seeing some failures here because I'm actually adjusting the tests as well as the tests in the CI/CD pipeline to ensure that they work. So you saw some failures here as I was testing them. But the most recent two successful ones are the ones that actually would stick. So starting from next month, I should hopefully see that they would actually pass because my minutes will come back. 2,000 minutes. Who knew? They're not enough. Anyway, so that's the tech stack setup as well as the enforcement mechanisms for tests and quality enforcements. So let's try to do something. So I can't. One of the problems with using remote development in the IntelliJ IDEA is that I cannot do a local emulator. So if you think about this, I'm actually so what you're looking at right now is just my local thin client, right? And the development environment is actually hosted somewhere else. So if I were to launch an emulator here, the emulator is being rendered locally on the server, and there's just no easy way to pipe that image or that visual feed to here for me to see. So as a result, I just can't do that. And to get around that is the way to get around that is using a physical test device. So I have a physical tablet attached, connected to this particular project and this particular ID. So when I deploy, when I hit this build and install button, it will eventually show up on the Pixel tablet in front of me that I can test and play with. Unfortunately, you're not able to see that. So this is just so that we're on the same page, that it's not that I don't want to show you this, it's that it's literally being run on a different device. Okay, so the app I'm currently developing is a waitlist management app. And so far, the UI for the home screen is complete. Let's see. I think I call it cannot home screen. This home screen. So, all right, so this is a big file. Excuse my organization. You might think that this file's a bit too long, but for compose files, you know, let's say that it's okay. Okay, let's say that it's okay. And on a home screen, on the left-hand side, we have the waitlist list pane. It's a pane that displays all the waitlists. And on the right-hand side, it displays the guest detail pane. And guest detail pane displays the guests in the selected waitlist on the waitlist list pane. So in the guest detail pane, one thing that I have, so the UI is done, but the presentation layer is not hooked up to either the domain or the data layer. In other words, we need to inject the dependencies into the presentation layer using Koin DI, Koin Dependency Injection. And then we need to hook up the add guest floating action button. I'm sorry, the add guest floating action button already correctly pulls up the add guest bottom sheet. But that add guest bottom sheet contains placeholder information. Oh, excuse me. And as you can see, it's all. So let's see if it is injected. Yeah, so on add guest. Oh, sorry. I should. So when the launched effect. So let's see. Where's the button? Space or add guest form. That's another level of indirection. So this is the actual form on the bottom sheet. And then when the add guest is called, this is the one that gets called. So we need to go one level up and find. So this is on add guest. So yeah, we're doing a lot of prop drilling here. So home screen model add guest. So it's this function. Okay. So this is the function that handles the intent that comes from pressing the add guest button on the add guest bottom sheet. And if I remember correctly, it's not set up. Process request result is domain success. So do we have a use case here? Where is this use case from? We have a use case? Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go. So the use case is not really doing anything. It's generating the guest ID, setting the variable, but it's not doing anything because the use case is not hooked up. Okay, so this is what I want to implement. So the UI is done. The view models and the use cases are actually not hooked up. The use case is not implemented. Unlike, for instance, at waitlist use case, this is implemented at waitlist use case. Val waitlist return repository. So yeah, right here. So where is this? Oh, guess it. Where is the implementation? Okay, this is implemented. When did I implement this? I do not remember. Let's give it a try. What? Hang on. All right, I'm on my device. You're watching it raw, unedited. And I am as surprised as you are. Oh, okay. I see. Okay, so I think it's hooked up except on the add guest form. I think one of the buttons is disabled. No? So what about the... So what I'm seeing on screen right here is that if I wanted to icon button, action button, there we go, Shokken outline button. This is cancel, this is add guest. So it's loading buttons correct. So what I'm seeing right here is that the form is ready. I can put in my information, but the add guest is grayed out. Enable is form valid. Where is this from? So this is okay. What? Then the form should be valid. Okay, I'm trying to. The add guest just doesn't show up. Is it a bug? Okay. So am I reading this right? Loading button. Loading button on click. Okay. Enabled is form valid. So if the form is valid and the form valid computation is name, right, is not blank, then why is this not evaluating? Well, you know what? This is a good time to introduce our new friend. Oh, wait. Let's summon our Claude friend. I'm going to pass model param to use Opus. MCP server failed. I just never bothered to fix it. The MCP server I was using was the MCP server of my IDE. In other words, Claude Code can communicate with my IDE through MCP server, changing files, and most importantly, looking up symbol as well as ID intelligence. So, like for instance, when you mouse over something here, your IDE knows what this is, right? You can click into it and find out it's where it's defined and whatnot. But Claude Code doesn't have that information, and to provide that information to Claude Code would be highly valuable. And one of the ways to do that is through an MCP server that you set up in your development environment, and then Claude Code can then query this. The problem, though, is because it's in its infancy, it doesn't work very well. So I'm running into hang-ups with the IntelliJ MCP server probably once every 3 or 4 times. It got real old, so I stopped using it. And that's why I never bothered to fix it. All right, so this is the Claude Code situation. And just to preface this, my Claude Code is not exactly raw. I have 2 things that I've already set up. One is um, I think it's literally just called Claude, right? MD. Wait, hang on. There we go. This is the instruction file or the Claude memory file. So I have a whole list of things that I have set up for Claude to do and not to do. And I'm using the agent, uh, subagents within Claude Code. In other words, the primary agent that reads this Claude memory file, he is only doing orchestration. I don't want him to do anything in particular when it comes to research, implementation, tests, or Git operations. These are actually delegated to agents right here. These are the agents that I have. And within each agent, I've these are the memory files for each agent. And as you can see, this is just straight up markdown. Anyway, so that's the situation. And let me ask Claude Code why the add guest button is not enabled. So I'm going to say use agent to find out why add guest button on add guest bottom sheet is not enabled, even if I fill out all info on the screen correctly. You don't actually have to spell everything right. It's LLM. It can understand your spelling mistakes, but I'm just going to do that because I'm a proper human being. And that's it. You ask it to do that. Couple of things to keep in mind. We're still in the early stages of LLM local development environment assistance. We need to be super vigilant when it comes to taking its recommendations, believing what it says, and stuff like that. A lot of times it does hallucinate. There are techniques that you can employ to reduce its hallucination. One of them is using the Shokken researcher subagent to ground its claims on web searches. So if it's trying to recommend that you use a particular library, Shokken researcher can then enforce the discovery and research of that particular library. Number one, to make sure that it exists. A lot of times, LLM can just dream up things for you to use that just don't exist at all. And number two, even if it exists, you got to make sure that Claude understands the syntax as well as the latest and the greatest best practice that may be very different than what Claude remembers from when Claude was trained. So the researcher provides the research and the context for Claude to do it right so that it would hallucinate less. So you gotta watch out for that. And the other thing is, of course, the context degradation. Claude Opus gives you about 200,000 tokens of context. Token, you can think of it as just roughly how long your conversation with Claude has been. And the longer your conversation goes with Claude, the bigger it fills the context window. And the bigger the context window gets filled, the greater the performance degradation comes from Claude. Okay, I made the first mistake. So right here, I'm asking it to find out what's going on. And Claude, despite my instructions, specifically in the researcher subagent, oh, it's using the UI agent. Okay, yeah, sometimes you gotta. Oh, that's appropriate. That's also an appropriate agent to use. And I wanted to investigate, and it's coming back with what does it want to do? Test email validation to confirm mismatch. Oh, it's trying to. Okay, there we go. It's trying to shove this function into one of my files, so that presumably it would want me to run the app and then watch the printout. The problem is I didn't ask it to do that, right? I asked it to find out what's going on and then tell me what you have found. So that's something that you can specify when you ask the first question, and I forgot to do that. Let's just humor it. Um, make sure that this is done right. And the other problem with this, okay, this highlights another problem. If you're not using subagents, all the thought process that Claude goes through to satisfy your request is laid out there in front of you. You can read it. But if you're using subagents, even you could do Control R and go into his thoughts, but it doesn't. What am I looking at? I don't even know what am I looking at. Why? I don't understand why this is in my Control R. Oh, I read it. So when it reads a file, it just appends it to the log. Yeah, so Control R becomes just useless. Oh, this is the, yeah, there we go. So yeah, so in the subagent situation, you can't really see the thought process of the subagent. So as a result, when you come back to the bash command that he wants to put in, you don't know what the next thing is. I'm guessing from what I'm reading from the function here that he wants to add debug logging so that we can try to figure out why this has been the case. But I don't know for sure. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to cancel it, and then I'm going to go use double escape to go back to the previous prompt. The reason I do that is because number one, what he did was useless. And you might ask, why don't I just start a respond below? Because at that point, I will have already used some context length, even in a master uh, uh, agent, and I don't really want that context pollution. So I would go back to the previous line and then erase the context that it generated. So at the end, I'm going to say perform investigation only, report what you find, and proposed fix. Do not implement anything until I approve. And hopefully, this should give the master agent enough context to instruct the subagent to not make any changes until I approve it. So let's see if this works. Dear Lord, my throat is very phlegmy tonight. It does that when I want to talk. So one of dear Lord, excuse me. So one of the things I learned throughout my journey, if you will, this year using or doing vibe coding, if it is an unfortunate word because it's supposed to, like, writing programs and making an app should be fun. It shouldn't just be limited to when you're using AI assistants. One of the things I learned is that you can't you this is something that you have to work with. It's another tool. It's not the end all and be all. It's not something that you can just tell it to do something and it just does it perfectly. Um, if you watch YouTube videos about model reviews or read information online about models, a lot of the clickbaity videos and articles would show you how they work by doing what's so-called one-shot prompts or one-shot apps, where they ask the LLM to make an entire app based on one prompt that they give. And this rarely, well, not rarely, this never works out well. Like, if you have a non-trivial application, you can't do. I mean, if you can use one prompt to make a workable application, then everybody's would be making apps like all day long. But it's not. LLM is just another tool that you have to learn how to use. And so far, everybody's learning, and everybody is a noob. Okay, let's see what I found. Be careful when Claude uses any enthusiasm, because it's I'd say probably 30 to 40% of the time, it's not true. So Claude says that he's found the issue because of phone number validation mismatch. The phone validation regex expects format this, but you interesting. Okay. So I can't read this. Like, I don't know. Do you read regex? I don't. So I'm just gonna trust. Oh, actually, he might be right. So if I put +1, it doesn't. Oh my god. Okay, so in this case, he was right. I found the so stuff like this, right? Like I'm not gonna read this. I don't like. Is this plus? Is this a control character or is this a literal character? I don't know that. Claude does. So Claude can make that work. All right. So let's. This is a very good example. So let's say we want to fix this. Button enable conditions. Okay. Proposed fix. Normalize phone input before validation. Okay. So you know, immediately on top of my head, I'm thinking to myself, is this a UI? Is this a presentation layer responsibility? Is this a domain layer responsibility? Should I actually provide this in the presentation layer to enhance the user experience, provide immediate response and stuff like that? So I don't know. I mean, I could look it up, but at this point, I don't know what the best practice is. Uh, so let's ask Claude. So it will like every time when you ask it to find the root cause or something, a lot of times it would actually do the proposal in terms of how to fix it, even if you didn't ask. So earlier I did ask it, right? But even if you didn't ask, it would do that. Don't do the proposed fix immediately. You have to do research yourself or ask the appropriate Claude agent, subagent, to do the research for you to ensure that it is the correct fix. Some examples that I can think of is, maybe the fix would have been nice in an app that doesn't use clean architecture or it doesn't use MVI. I know these don't apply here, but a lot of cases they could, right? One particular fix might be okay with a particular infrastructure, but not in yours. So in this case, I'm going to ask use researcher agent to verify that the proposed solution um, is best practice and optimal for our code base. Only report what you find. Do not perform any implementation until I review and approve. So same idea. I think this sort of shows you the power of the AI assistants, right? A lot of times it might not be very good at making big correlations across different components of your complex database. But for stuff like this, I would have easily just forgotten about checking the pattern and putting in the logging uh, eh, lines of code in my app and then run the app and then try to check the log to see if it did this evaluate correctly, did that evaluate correctly, and then that would have wasted a cycle for me. Whereas with this, it found the issue immediately, so it's pretty good. And the other thing to keep in mind is I personally have had a very bad experience using debugger in really anything that's asynchronous, especially when it comes to front end UI design. A lot of times, certain things would run and other things wouldn't, and then your breakpoint in your debugger would halt certain things and not others correctly. And a lot of behavior that should take place correctly wouldn't. So I have not had a good time using the debugger. Maybe I'm just not good enough to use it correctly. And that's why I'm pretty sure like what a vast majority of folks who are writing Android apps or KMP apps probably use debug messages to do debugging as opposed to use the actual debugger. We don't have front end apps. Y'all understand? We don't have the luxury of orchestration. Users are very demanding, and you have to deal with them. Well, we we don't have to deal with them. The app deals with them. And so going back to this particular problem, I know I have normalization taking place in the domain layer as well as the database, data layer in database. And I believe, I could be wrong, believe that I also normalize it in my database on the server side. So the data going into my database, I can be sure would be clean. But how do we deal with this particular UI situation here? Maybe there's a material 3 UI library best practice when it comes to putting in phone numbers that I didn't know. You see, a lot of those things I don't bother doing research specifically just on the website, because number one, can take a long while. Number two, you don't know whether or not the one that you're looking at is actually the best practice. You can read a lot of Medium articles. Some of them are better than others, and if there's something that's not an official example or an official pattern, it's really hard for you to know whether or not what you're reading is, the best practice, or if there's a better one, right? You never know. And if and I can give it to the researcher to perform the research. And ideally, this doesn't always happen, but ideally, it would actually find multiple articles and code examples and whatnot, and then use its, you know, AI LLM reasoning capabilities to go through them and then find the best one. Another trick that we can also use is asking it to give you options. So if there's one thing that I want to implement, I would ask it to, hey, perhaps give me 3 options, and then evaluate them, the pros and cons of each approach. And then you can then make an informed decision on that. So instead of reading three, like 2,000 word long articles that may or may not pertain directly to the problem you're trying to solve, you can just read 3 very succinct descriptions of the solution, and then you can decide based on the information. A lot of and do keep in mind that a lot of times the official recommendation provided by Claude, it may not be the best recommendation. So you would then challenge Claude by providing your hypothesis and have it respond. Sometimes it would stand its ground. Most of the time it would actually think more and then fold and choose something different. That's something you have to, every model has a different personality. You have to figure out their personality, work with them. Anyways, okay, so we got the research results. Solution confirmed as optimal. Okay, yeah, naturally from okay, minimal change. Okay, so what recommendation? Doing normalized replace. Oh, okay. Okay, you see? So Claude found some other alternate approaches and it rejected them. So what's the idea? Like, so it's trying to add this. So it's in the composable. It's going to be in the presentation layer. But I suppose this is, I'd say this is probably a synchronous operation. This is so fast. Uh, oh, I see. So presumably it's thinking to call this when you press add guest or something. Would it actually run this every time the screening recomposes? I don't know. Let's see how it implements it, and we'll see what the implication on performance is. All right, so now we have a solution, and we want it to implement it. And implementation is still using the UI agent. And in this case, okay, so what I will ask it to do is use UI agent to perform this implementation. Uh, uh, perform once implementation completes. Verify, verify Android build success. Do not run tests. return control to me to validate. Okay. So this is very important. I have my test runner as well as the error fixers set in the validator subagent. I have the validator has all the context with regards to what it needs to do to fix those errors. Remember the consist tests as well as detect and kt-lint that I mentioned earlier? These are actually fixed in validator, and I don't want my UI agent to fix errors or style issues or infrastructure architectural issues. Okay, so this is the integration with the Claude Code integration with IDE that you're seeing right now. Every time when Claude wants to change something, it would actually show you the diff in the IDE so you can see what's going on. So, oh, so I already had this function. I was not aware. Okay. I'm, during the interview, I'm definitely going to say I'm intimately familiar with my code base. But at this point, my code base is gigantic already, and it's a very simple app. I just can't. I mean, obviously, I was joking. It's difficult to. Okay, so normalize, strip common formatting characters. Okay, all right. I'm okay with that. Right? There's no other changes. Just hit apply, and the change would just apply. And obviously, you're working in a Git environment, so all the changes are being tracked, as you can see right here. Right. So if anything goes wrong, you can always go back. Ah, there we go. So now what you can see, oh, built. Oh, yeah. This is. I've discovered Gemini to be much better at the Kotlin and Kotlin multi-platform syntax in the knowledge base than Claude, which I suppose isn't too surprising because Gemini is a Google product, and Kotlin Google is in bed with JetBrains on Kotlin and Kotlin multi-platform. But so that's why you would run into issues like what we just saw, which was it didn't know what command to use, and I thought that I had added that in my agent instructions, but I guess I haven't. That's another thing to keep in mind. Agents don't always follow the instructions that you put in there. Um, One of the things that is characteristic of any LLM or AI code assistance is that they're like human beings. I mean, I think that's the most appropriate way to describe them. They're like human beings. They can forget things, and they forget things more easily if that's something that you told them a while ago. Again, as the context grows, it not only becomes more difficult for them to follow instructions, but also they will forget earlier things. And this is also something that you have to manage, right? You have to keep in mind to reassert the rules and instructions once in a while to make sure that, they would still follow it. Or worst case, compact and clear the context and start a fresh new one. Anyway, so, all right. So it's saying implementation is complete. Uh, Android build successful. So I'll do a little test. Okay, it's launching on my local device. And I'll attempt to add, I'm going to call it this person's name. I'm going to put in my phone number. Okay. So strip space from allow user in natural format. Input validate. Normalize phone. Okay, so I still need to put in +1. Then what the fuck? Then it didn't change anything, did it? Okay. Oh, this is doing another layer of normalization. Okay, I completely misunderstood. What the? Oh, there we go. This is not edited in any way. So earlier, I wasn't reading the output from Claude correctly. I had misunderstood that Claude was going to fix the problem with me requiring me to put in a plus in the phone number for the phone number field to be uh, validated correctly and for the add guest button to appear. But evidently, that's not what it did. What it did was normalizing the phone number that I put in there such that the backend would receive it correctly. But I'm already doing that normalization in my domain layer as well as in the backend for my database. So I don't really need that in the presentation layer. So we don't need any of this. So let's roll back. So what I will do is first I will roll back the file that got changed. So it got deleted. I'll stop the emulator. And then I will go back to my very first prompt because that's before it started proposing a solution that then just discovered is not the right solution. I'm going to add my discovery here so that it has the context to look for it. I think it's because I did not enter a plus sign at the beginning. This may be undesirable for users. We want them to be able to enter a number without having to worry about uh, the plus sign and the country code. Okay, so I'll ask it to perform the investigation, and then after that, we'll do the same procedure and ask the researcher agent to find out the best solution to this particular UI problem. In other words, in the phone field, how do we make it such that the user doesn't have to put in the plus sign or the area code? Is there a better way to do it than because you have to account for users that do it and the users that don't do it, and then both would have to normalize correctly in the back end, and also front end would have to make sure on the form the phone the text field would have to make sure to be able to accept both and enable the add guest button for both, right? So there we go, another round. Isn't this interesting? the, the I think one of the reasons why people call programming with an AI assistant vibe coding is because this is a very different mentality when it comes to coding. If you think about it, before this point, if you didn't use any of the AI coding assistants, what are you? Like you're two things. You're one, essentially I suppose you can call yourself a syntax generator or a code generator after you've read the syntax. So number one, you generate code that follows particular syntax. And this second role that you play as a researcher, you find out what you need to generate, right? And then you just generate the code. That's sort of your most of your headspace. And I found before most of my headspace is occupied with documentation and implementation specifics. That may be very good at promoting the solution to highly focused small problems, but I often forget to look at the big picture. When you have an AI assistant that sort of communicates with you like an intern or even a junior developer with senior developer knowledge, you begin to look at the app from a much higher level and you think about bigger problems well ahead of the time than focusing on smaller minute details. I think that this is a mentality shift. So you're switching from an engineer to, I suppose, a product manager, and you're thinking about product. And And honestly, I, like, oh, okay, we'll continue our thought after this. This terminal just doesn't work very well. Okay. Investigation complete. I guess it requires a plus sign. Yeah. Yeah. Reject any number without. Yes. I don't like it. Proposed solution. Smartphone normalize accept flexible input and normalize it to. I like the way you think. I like the way you think. Yeah, naturally. Yes. I like to enter my numbers naturally. Okay, all right. So we have this proposal from. I'm sorry. He used Validator to do. Okay, well, whatever. Okay, so we have the solution, and I want to use researcher to verify that this proposed. Oh wait, hang on. I think I have a. There we go. I have this previous prompt. You can just press up, and it'll be there. That's optimal for code base only report. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so and again, with any proposal, make sure to validate it with another agent that is in a different context, that doesn't have the bias towards the solution that was just proposed. And earlier I was going to talk about I suppose, the resistance from the software development industry and people who are deep in the trenches when it comes to writing code. And there's a lot of resistance from this group with regards to the AI invasion, if you will. And I remember reading a Reddit post, and I thought it was pretty telling. It's likely part, just unfamiliarity and like strangeness, I suppose, is something that's new, that's difficult to accept. Another part probably, the fear of what's to come as a result of this. And I would say that I probably would agree in the latter, in that it's not that there won't be any developers, as you just saw. I hope that the process that I've been using now to fix a small problem demonstrates that even with AI assistance, it's not as trivial as most people find it to be. But the skill to use an AI agent to write programs is not exactly the same set of skills that are required to become a good engineer. And I can imagine, for somebody who has been honing their engineering skills all their careers, would find it to be, I suppose, uncomfortable to be faced with the reality of either learning something new and keeping up with the new technology and the new requirements, or being left behind and become obsolete. And I think this is valid. And as I mentioned, this AI assistant creates another layer of abstraction between the raw computers and humans. If you think about it, like not long ago, like 20, 30 years ago, like people were writing programs in assembly language, right? Where do we get this nice private function, normalized phone number with clearly defined parameters of return type and the body of the function? Oh wow, this is luxury. And this level of abstraction allowed us to think more efficiently when it comes to what the apps should do. Right? Apps nowadays do far more than, what applications did 20, 30 years ago. But also at the same time, the conversion from higher level languages like these to assembly languages are done by a program. And I don't know about you, I do not know a single programmer in my life, and I know a few, that can program in assembly. And that's not something to be afraid of. we don't need that skill in anymore unless you're, you know, an assembly GCC expert, or you're a cybersecurity expert that needs to look into the low level nitty gritty, or a game engine engineer. Okay, yes, sure. But for the vast majority of us, we should not hoard the knowledge of assembly programming. AI isn't just another layer of abstraction. At some point, I would imagine, we won't need to know syntax. Why do I need to know the syntax? Why do I need to know how a Kotlin function works if I can just tell the AI to do exactly what I want? And the skill transfer would happen from knowing how to talk in Kotlin to knowing how to talk in Claude or whatever AI model that you're using. And I think it's this transition. And it's not just obviously this is not unique to the software industry, but like I think it's this transition that scares most people. Honestly, I don't know what the outcome might be. It scares me a little bit too. But at the same time, it is it excites me. I'm like the if you think about the application that I'm sorry, the LLM that I'm using, Claude Opus. This is the Claude Code as a part of the Claude Max subscription. I pay $200 a month to get access to this world class AI that can help me write things and debug and stuff like that. $200 a month. I can't pay a programmer $200 a day to work alongside me to do pair programming with me. AI assistance would actually open up a lot of possibilities for indie developers who can't afford to hire another programmer, another dozen programmers to help them make an app that other people want to use. Okay. Anyways, that's a lot. I've been on my soapbox for a long time. That was an interesting soliloquy. Research complete. Has significant issues. Aha, researcher shutting down Validator. US centric. Okay, I'm okay with US centric bias, not because I think it's because my app is targeted for US, right? Oversimplify validation. Okay, okay, international security risk, insufficient validation, for international support. Okay. Oh no, it's suggesting me new. I don't want libraries. I don't want to do platform specific approach. You no validator. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. Okay. So what do we learn from this research outcome? Number one, it's trying to use a new library, which I really don't want. And furthermore, it's not ready for KMP. Number two, it's wanting, as a result of this not being ready for KMP, it's wanting to do platform specific approach. I do not like this at all. The biggest reason to use KMP is not to have to deal with shit like this. Let's use my language. I'm sorry. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to perform research again after clearing out the context for this, but limiting it such that we're only worrying about the US. We don't want a new library or any platform specific approach. The app only cares about US based phone numbers. There is no need to support international numbers. Additionally, we should not use any new library or platform specific approaches. Okay, and let's see what it finds. As you can see, for effective problem solving or cooperation with AI agents, you need to do a multi-shot approach. Not multi-shot, iterative approach. You go back and forth until you reach a desired state. And as you can see, it takes some time for AI to think about it, perform research, and get back to you. One of the tricks that I use for this is I simply right click on this and say split right, and it would actually open up another terminal window on my right. And I can open up another instance of Claude Code and then run them concurrently. Now, keep in mind, both of them would be running on the same code base if you're in the same uh, IDE window. If you want to run them, you can ideally, what I would do is I would use one for research and the other for implementation. So one to give me ideas and another one to give me, to actually perform the implementation. Um, you probably have seen on the internet, on Reddit, there's a lot of meme-worthy pictures where somebody has like 6 or 8 Claude windows open, where they're they're one with Claude. They've achieved nirvana with Claude. I myself cannot hold that much context. 2 windows I discovered are probably as much as I can handle at once. Because at some point you're gonna have to, like, if you had 8 windows open, you look at the third window, you're like, last time I saw this window was 2 hours ago. I don't even remember what it did. Is just not going to be there. Like, and the time for your brain to perform the context switch will probably be longer than just waiting for the results to come out. So two, I found it to be quite good. Now, but do keep in mind that because they're working on the same code base, if you're doing research in one and implementation in the other, that's okay. But it's not okay if you're doing implementation in both. Well, because again, you'd be stepping on each other's toes, right? So, two approaches. One, it would be just to work on two local copies of Git, and the other is using Git worktree. But because I'm using this IDE, and I started initially, I was doing two implementation windows on two separate Git repositories. But at some point, I got myself confused because I forgot to check the directory I was in, and then started mixing those two things up. In other words, I'm asking the second window to perform the changes in the first window and vice versa. So I made a few mistakes before I realized that I should just keep it to one single repo. I take some hit in terms of efficiency, but at the very least, I wouldn't get them confused and have to roll back. And rolling back costs a lot of time. One thing to also note is the $200 per month subscription to this particular AI agent doesn't get you unlimited access. It gets you metered usage up to a certain point, and then it resets after a little while. So if you're heavy on 6 or 8 windows, honestly, in two or three windows, you can easily just hit the limit very quickly. Yeah. 6 or 8, you probably hit the limit. If you're using Opus, which is the more expensive model, you can probably hit the limit in 1 or 2 hours, I would guess. So I'm talking. Today is October 27th. So now the limit resets every 5 hours. After September 1st, the limits are going to reset weekly. That's going to hurt. So managing your token usage is also an important topic. I have not explored that topic because so far I have not run into that issue. But at some point, I probably will have to. Okay, let's see. US phone number validation best practices. Yes. I'm okay with that. Okay, so like I'm not using Supabase auth in this particular situation. This is Supabase Postgres. But I'm okay with this E164 format because that's also what my database is using. Two-stage validation approach. I thought that I already had normalization in this is so. Oh, yeah. It's okay. Iterative. I got to remember to be iterative. So what's happening right now is that the researcher is performing research on a problem that's bigger than our scope. We only want to fix the UI layer, the presentation layer problem. It's now digging into the database layer, the domain layer. I don't need any of that. I don't need. Okay, so we're gonna go back and fix the prompt once more. So only worry about the presentation layer. Do not worry about database, data layer, or domain layer. Okay, maybe third time is the charm. Who knows? A lot of times with Claude, seventh time is the charm. We got all night. We don't got all night. I'm quite tired today. All right, Shokken researcher, show me what you can do. Show me what you can do. I have to say, I'm not as you can probably see from the number of subscribers as well as views, I'm not a YouTuber. I'm just documenting my experience developing an app. And so as a result, what I am currently experiencing is quite weird. I'm sitting in front of my computer, looking at my screen at 200% scaling because this is better for legibility on screen, talking into a microphone, looking at nobody. I am literally talking to myself. I think at some point I might need to get help because I'm talking to myself. I'm very glad you can't see my face now. I thought it would be really weird for me to set up a camera for this. Maybe at some point, you know. The other thing, the other motivation for me to document this uh, path is, you know, I think it would be interesting 5 or 10 years from now to look back at, you know, what I'm doing now with the code base. It's sort of like a time capsule. Is it, like, can you imagine looking back at the development environment of somebody 10 years ago? Wouldn't that be fun to look at? I would think so. And but in particular, listen to them talk through their thought process when they write something, and you can see everything on the screen, right? And you can see everything in great detail on the screen, as opposed to some brief flashes of their screen. So yeah, it could be interesting 5 or 10 years from now, if for nobody else but for myself. But the goal for this particular app is to actually fill a need on a market, and it's going to be a while before I can. I hope to come out with fully vetted, locally vetted by me, testable versions by the end of this year. Android has been okay because I can build, and I can build the Android version on my server. My server is the Ubuntu server, Linux. The problem with that is, of course, you cannot build iOS apps on any device other than an Apple device. I do have an Apple laptop, but I use it. I can't just keep it as a server. So I don't I, like when I'm developing, I don't necessarily always have it set up to build. Plus, because like it's just why does Apple do this? Yeah, maybe there's a technical reason for this. It's just frustrating, man. I mean, one way for me to develop to be able to in close to real time test the Apple iOS builds is to use my Apple computer as the development environment. In other words, to use that as my backend as opposed to my server. The problem is that I use that laptop. I can't do that. This is very annoying. The GitHub CI/CD pipeline does provide a Mac runner for when you want to build the Mac app. Oh, sorry, the iOS app. A couple problems with that. Number one, even if it does the build, well, it does. It's not even if it does do the build. It does the build. I have to manually download it and then manually install it onto my iOS because again, it's not locally, right? I can't just press the play button right here and it just does it. No, it doesn't do that. So that adds friction to my testing. And number two, the Mac runner costs 10 times the minutes. So every month you get what, 2,000 free minutes? You For a Mac runner is 200 minutes. That's not a lot of time. I push out a build. Well, my CI/CD verifies build for every commit, and yeah, as you can imagine, that I'm gonna run out of credits like on the first day. That's just not gonna work. So that's why iOS builds are I to be honest haven't looked at in a couple of weeks. It's possible that when I'm trying to build the iOS app, I might need a lot of alone time with Claude to figure out how to fix all the holes and bugs and the stubs. We'll see. That could be an interesting video, a documentation style video next time. I don't have that. I don't at this point. I'm just like an ostrich. I'm not gonna think about it until we cross the bridge. Okay. Alrighty. Confirm. Yeah. Poor UX. Yeah. 89. Where did you get this number from? 89%? Okay. Okay. Most common, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Presentation layer. Okay. Okay. So its validation is okay. And it does the conversion. Okay. Okay. I'm okay with that. This is near instantaneous. Okay. I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this. All right. So use Shokken UI to implement, ensure and knows exactly needs to be done. Once implementation is complete, verify build and return control. Give me to test. Do not run tests. So as a reminder, this is the same process as before. I ask it to do the implementation. I need for it to verify build success, because a lot of times, again, like if they hallucinate when it comes to syntax, the implementor needs to fix the syntax issue. So I don't actually ask the validator to fix the syntax issue. That's an implementation problem. So once the syntax issue is fixed and it's runnable, it's buildable and runnable without runtime errors, then I ask the validator to validate run the tests and make sure that it could, complies with stuff and whatnot. Okay, let's take a look at what it wants to change. Phone. Oh, so it's getting rid of this line. It's not doing the regex anymore. Phone validation. Okay, so it's checking. It's check tended. Okay. All right. So this is the add guest form. Add guest form. Let's go to this file. I do not remember the guest. Oh no. Yeah, sometimes the terminal runs into this flashing issue. And I when that happens, it's cue for me to swallow down some pills. By the way, the way to fix the flashing issue, besides swallowing some pills, is to you have to close down the entire tab completely and open up a new tab. Just simply quitting Claude won't fix it. That's a terminal issue, not a Claude issue. What does it do? So I don't. Okay, yeah, this is useless. The the context. Control R is just useless for. Okay, there we go. Placeholder. Okay, that's just a string resource. It's not. That's not the validation. I think it's just trying to say that it's going to just validate the digit length. Oh, okay, that makes sense. If you're in the US, it's gonna be 10 or 11 digits. If you start it with a 1, and then it just okay, and then it literally just validates the length and then normalize it and sends it to the data layer. Okay. Oh, all right, I'm okay with that. It when if if this app achieves global dominance, at that point, I'm going to worry about changing that validation. So it sounds like okay. So this is a very strict. This is okay. Problems like these might have been easier and faster to implement. To fix by hand. Okay, but this is for illustration purposes only. Okay. 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 All right. So it verified build. So now let me. Oh no. I think the. Oh no. What's happening? Don't don't fail me. Don't fail me. It's not responding to my clicks. I'm losing my touch, man. I'm losing my touch. Okay, this is very annoying. Let me close it down and start it back up. Okay, so it's taking longer than it should. One thing you have to be careful of when you're using remote development like this is doing invalidate, cache, and restart. Every time I did that, and I only did it twice, every time I did that, it bricked my host installation. Don't know why. I looked up, and apparently that is a bug. So just be careful. The remote development is still in, I believe, beta. I don't think it has reached general availability yet. So just be careful. Okay, it's launching on my device, and okay, so this is an interesting point to make. After your session is forced quit like that, and you want to go back to the previous Claude session, you don't have to use any like screen utility for Linux. You can just do Claude model opus because I still want opus, and you can continue the conversation. Okay, so I'm on the page. I'm on my local device testing it. Phone number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, it didn't. It didn't. Yeah, I'm sure it didn't change the. Oh wait, hang on. Hey. I'm sure it didn't change the actual validation logic. It literally. Yeah, I think. Oh wait, it did. It did. Is valid phone number. So so this logic is changed. So what I'm experiencing now on my local test device is that it's still not doing that, which so this is a boolean well cleaned return when I clean my clean length. I don't know what this is though. This is any number 9 digits. Is this what this means? Accepts these. Also accepts. So normalize phone number to that number. And then oh, okay. So all right. The issue is so validate. So what I need to find out. Okay, well, instead of me trying to do this manual, let's ask Claude. I entered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, wait, hang on. Maybe I didn't do it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Ah, there we go. There we go. Okay, I was stupid. Wait, is it 10? 1, 3, 9, 10. So this is 1, 2. So this is 9, 10, 11. So it accepted at 11 digits, but not at 10 digits. It accepted 11 digits. Oh, wow. It keeps. Okay, so we definitely have a bug. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 it did. Okay, so it did accept 10. It accepted 9, accepted 8, accepted 7, accepted 6. So one. Oh, wait. Okay. Oh, I see. So it looks like the logic is that the add guest button is enabled as soon as the phone number field is validated, and it does not disable the add guest button until the add guest is pressed, and then the phone number is validated to being wrong. In other words, the logic needs to be fixed here such that the add guest button needs to sync up with the phone number error detection. And that would be a separate thing to do. And that's a separate, that would be a separate commit. So, okay. So for all intents and purposes, the current implementation, I'm going to commit. And then we'll work on the new issue with regards to the add guest button enablement issue. Okay, so now I'm okay. I'm happy with this. I'm going to say use agent to use validator to verify, test, and build uh, success. Report any failures and proposed fixes. Ooh, okay, I'm not going to fix it. Uh, do not perform fixes until I approve. Okay, let's see what the validator does. And this is going to take a little while because I have some very comprehensive hooks. I think both hooks would take probably 3 minutes to run. I understand that this is hell for local developers, but I'm the only developer. whirring. One thing to keep in mind is that when Claude is using bash commands to, for instance, run your tests, it I think the default timeout is like 30 seconds. I don't remember. It's quite short. If you have a long running task, such as my hooks, Claude will actually time out and then not be able to see the rest of the output on the bash command. And the way to fix that is by going to the settings JSON file and then define the max timeout in milliseconds. And I actually don't know the difference between default timeout and the max timeout, but I want both of them to be long. So I set them to be 600,000 milliseconds. Oh no, I have failing tests. God darn it. That means I have to fix them. Otherwise, I can't commit. Even if I bypass the hooks, the pipeline won't like it. So let's fix them. This is a lot longer than I thought it would be. So usually it's not this. I think part of the reason why it's so long is because I've been talking through the whole situation, and that slowed it down. You know, like I I can't talk as quickly as I think. All right, let's see what errors we found. Consist tests. So it's likely we we didn't even change that much. What consist failures could there have possibly been? What I'm sorry, what is this? Why do you have a gigantic forehead? Oh, wait, what? What what, what is this number? Is this the commit hash? What am I Okay, I think this is probably just let me go down to 100. I think that just might be a commit. I think this is a commit hash. Okay, that is what it is. We will deal with that, big forehead. Uh, I can't I can't see anything. I can't see. Okay, yeah. So change to this consts. I don't think there's any rules on consts. Uh, maybe this line is too long, but that's not a consist failure. And maybe the private funds. Do I have any? Do I have any consist rules on private funds? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what Claude finds. Okay, so it looks like it just finished with all tests and it's going through the build. But I already know that build succeeds, so I'm not worried about that part. It's the tests. It's worrying for a while. Oh, okay. As you can tell, I've run out of things to talk about. I've become quite quiet, and unfortunately, I'm not going to go through the process of editing this video. I want you to experience this raw with me. This is literally after midnight. Wow. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's some incompatible uh modules I've been using in this. Kotlin, is it Kotlin? Is it Kotlin 2.2? I think Kotlin 2, but KMP 2. What there some library came out with a new version, and some other libraries don't like it. I just have not worried about it, and so far it's working okay. Oh yeah, there we go. It literally says it here. Module compiled with incompatible version of Kotlin. Yeah. Yeah. Stuff takes time. Done. Okay, it's done. It's gonna tell us what's wrong. It used 48,000 tokens, a quarter of the Opus limit. All right, two failed. Trailing spaces to KT lane. That's easy. Missing. That's easy to fix. Oh. Okay, that's annoying. Hard coded. Okay, currency code. Okay, a good country code. Oh, okay. No magic, no. Oh, okay, all right. These are small issues. All right, so ready to implement these proposed fixed. Yeah. I'm okay with these fixes. Proceed to fix using agent. Yeah. Okay. So these are minor issues, and I have some duplicate tests. Not duplicate. I have some test and consist that duplicate what detect does. So yeah. Why are you using UI to fix it? Hello? Using validator agent. Oh, I swear to God, man. As you can tell, you need to shepherd your Claude. Otherwise, Claude goes wild. What is it doing? Why is it reading that? One thing I'm not exactly clear about is when using subagents. What? Oh, it's adding the reg. Yeah. When using subagents, do you like? Let's say you ask master agent asked the subagent to do something, and then the subagent spent 50,000 tokens, like which has happened now. Okay, I'm going to. That's a constant, yeah. 50,000 tokens to produce that response for the master agent. After the master agent gets the response, next time, when it needs to talk to the same subagent, does that subagent retain its previous context? I think it does. Because the documentation on Claude website mentions that after a while, the subagent you might experience slowdowns of the subagents as the context grows. So, but that ra- raises another question. Number one, I definitely have seen context like uh, the second request sending to the same subagent seems to not have the context of the first response. And even if what Claude is saying is true, um, how does it manage compaction? Does it do it by itself? And if it does, we don't have any control over it. So normally when you're not using subagents, you're just talking directly to Claude, the master agent. when your context, like right here, for instance, my context is at around 19%. When a context fills up, when you compact, how do you continue the conversation after the context fills up? I mean, the APIs literally would not respond. You have to shorten it. And a way to shorten it is by compacting. And what compacting does is it reads through the entire conversation history and provides a summary. And that summary would become the new context for your next chat. So when you're talking, after compaction, when you're talking back to Claude, Claude would essentially, his memory would be wiped and replaced with the compacted summary. But because compacted summary actually loses information, you'll notice a degradation in performance, response performance. So as a result, when you're using the master agent directly without using subagents, typically you try to manage you try to solve one problem in one context window. And then when that problem is over, you compact it and move on to the next one. Or just clear it, move on to the next one. But if we don't have control over how subagents compact their context windows, then what do? You just like you pray and hope that they compact at the right time and not in the middle of you asking them to do something. I don't know. Maybe this is maybe this is something that they're looking into. And subagents are so new that I think a lot of potential problems haven't really been discovered yet. Yeah, that's my guess. Okay, it's running consist check. Please tell me it's going to succeed. Oh no. Oh no. Claude, why you do me like that? You know what might have happened is fixing those problems caused them to make new. Oh, it's not even telling me what the problems are. I'm okay. Just go right ahead. Go right ahead. Be not afraid. Be not afraid. Oh, didn't like the zero. Didn't like the one either. These things, yeah. And one of the reasons I can be not afraid is because I know the tests are going to catch all the issues. So you know, because because of the comprehensiveness of my tests, I can sort of let loose when it comes to implementation by Claude because I know if it's screwing up, my consist tests would definitely yell at him and me. But then again, you know, for bigger refactors or bigger implementations, it behooves you to actually check what's going on. If you let the mistakes pile up and you're in the validator stage and trying to pass all the tests, you are going to hate yourself more than usual. Oh, it's running consist check again. All right, tell me. Tell me this time it's going to be good. It's going to be good. A lot of times I find myself sort of secretly hoping that the thing like it's as if you're looking at I don't know, like a lottery ticket outcome or something. You're just anticipate. The anticipation is building, and then you're like, oh, am I gonna win the lottery? And then you open it, so wow, wow, wow. 3 errors, 4 new errors. Have fun fixing them, but this is still better than having all the technical debt pile up, and then you're just in a deep load of you know what. I do not remember when we started recording. I hope the recording is going because I have been talking a lot. Oh no, Claude, what happened? What happened, Claude? What happened? So, no hard. Oh, it's still no hard-coded strings. I see that it's searching for that rule. So I wonder like, where is it detecting hard-coded strings, you know? I thought that we fixed everything. Yeah, I don't see any hard-coded strings. Do you? Do you? If you do, put it in the comments. And if I see 0 comment, it means I have no hard-coded strings. I don't see any hard-coded strings. I don't see any hard-coded strings. Konsist, what are you doing, Konsist? To be fair, Konsist has never been wrong, so it's likely my problem and Claude's problem, but I do not know what the problem is, and I cannot see what the problem is because I am not running the consistent tests myself. Oh, guess what? It's probably picking up the numbers. What in I thought I excluded that. No hard-coded strings in production code. Exclude them. Oh, it does not exclude comments. It does not exclude comments. And I remember, I don't think there's a way to exclude comments. So it's probably stuck right there. So you know what? I'm just gonna help Claude here because it's gonna take forever. I am just going to wait, hang on. So I'm going to run. Oh, wait, what, actually, the test? Test is the command? That tells you how clueless I am. Oh, what was that? Basic validation. Okay. Okay. Yeah, but it doesn't tell me. So, while at the same time, use Validator to find out what tests are failing. Show me them and proposed fix plan. Do not fix until I approve. Does it take this long? Are you serious? How many tests do I have? Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Could not write what why? Oh, it's it has not been able to write test results to. Oh, maybe it's because ah the chmod hasn't. Okay, maybe this is something I need to fix first. We discovered more problems. Okay, my friends, or my friend, if you're the only person watching, I appreciate your patience. But this requires more than the patience I have for tonight to fix. I must excuse myself. But I hope this gives you an interesting view into how this works and what the development workflow looks like on a bad day. I'm sure it will be better next time when you see me magically go through 5 different features in 1 hour. Anyways, that's it for this week. I'll see you next week.